Today we have head coach Mike Edgar for the men's lacrosse team. Coach Edgar, just kind of give us your outlook of this season. A large roster, probably the largest roster you've ever had, thanks mostly to a heavy recruiting effort by yourself and your staff. Talk about the returners, talk about the newcomers, 16 newcomers, just kind of give us an idea of what this team is all about.
Yeah, we're getting close to the point where we're almost all recruited players now. This being our 5th season, came in sort of at the tail end, or I guess at the beginning of the school year, so didn't have any tail end of the recruiting season though. So the senior class has just a few handful of guys that I recruited. And then junior class on down is almost entirely recruited athletes. We've managed to find a few athletic guys that we turned into lacrosse players that have stuck with us throughout, but generally we're looking at recruited guys. So the seniors look strong. We only have 5 of them, but they look strong. And I expect them to sort of set the tone for us. But really, a lot of the underclassmen are stepping up right away. Freshmen are being required to step right in and have a starting role in some cases.
Now, of that 16-member freshman class, what does that impact the most on your team? What areas of the game itself does that help you?
I would say our depth. We have never had the depth that I need at this point. At the level, college level lacrosse, it's fast, hard hitting, so there's a lot of injuries. And really, quite honestly, myself really sort of new. I consider 5 years into college coaching kind of new, and there's been a little bit of more turnover than I would have expected at a college. Academics and various other things come into play, and all of a sudden guys you're counting on aren't there anymore, which was kind of a little bit of an eye-opener to me. So I'm realizing that you need to carry a bigger roster than maybe I originally thought. Even just this year, we started fall ball with 43 guys. We're down to 32. So between fall and spring, 11 guys disappeared. So the depth is the big thing. We're going to have freshman Max Meserve is going to be starting an attack right out of the gates here, as well as a transfer, Andrew Sullivan. So those 2 guys are freshmen right on my attack, and they'll be supported and really led by Chachi Jonathan Horgan, who was my senior attackman, lead that group. But really it's the midfield that gives us the depth and the strength that we haven't had in the past.
Speaking of midfield, earlier conversations you mentioned that was going to be a strength of this team. Just kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we're able to, I think really the big thing between us and sort of the top teams in our conference is that they can run midfield line after us, one right after another, and you can't really necessarily, there's a couple guys that stand out, but generally all 3 of their lines are going to be strong, and they're all capable of scoring at any moment, and you had to be on top of all of them. We've never had that before. This year we finally do. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. We're going to change our offense to a more midfield oriented as opposed to everything going through the attack, and see how that plays, because I feel like we have the horses and the speed to do that at midfield now.
That's a big step for this program, certainly. And this is your 5th year, as you mentioned. Each year this team has progressed, leaps and bounds from a 2-win season your first year, and that seems like forever ago. And 2 10-win seasons back to back, and last year hosting a playoff game for the first time, and of course beating Becker College in that quarterfinal, advancing to the semifinals. And this year a bigger roster, more talent, and having that depth, of course, is key. So what do you expect as the next?
Well, I would say for us, a little deeper in the playoffs, obviously. Our ultimate goal, obviously, is win the conference, go to the NCAAs. Once you get the NCAAs, anything can happen. But right now, there's teams in our conference that we've never defeated. And I guess in order to get to the top, we got to defeat those teams. We're going to play some teams. My out-of-conference schedule, I scheduled pretty hard because I wanted to give us that test, get us ready for the conference schedule, because ultimately it's the conference schedule that really only matters. Even though it's nice to have a lot of wins on your record, you could schedule games that you're going to win to build up your win-loss records. It doesn't ultimately help your team grow. So we've scheduled some really tough opponents. Fairleigh Dickinson in particular 2 years ago was top 10 in the country, and we're playing them next week. So that will be a real eye-opener for the boys. But I feel like they see that stuff, then they're going to see where we are and where we would like to be.
Right, that's a real barometer for.
Yeah, and it gives them something to climb towards.
Right.
Not that the teams that we already don't play, there are already good teams out there, but I think this is even more of a barometer, a real measuring stick for these kids to say, wow, well, that's where we stand in our conference, but look where we stand nationally, When you look at the national rankings and you say, oh, that guy's ranked this and we're ranked this, you can really see the difference in play between those two levels.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of the NCAA automatic qualifiers, the first year the GNAC will receive that. The GNAC winner will go to the NCAAs. Does that change an outlook of a team, of a program in any way, kind of knowing that you not only just win your conference tournament, your season's
Right.
over, but there's also that other level of play that you can get to?
Well, I think it's a carrot. I think that's what everybody wants to do. All the coaches you talk to about any sport at Division III, any division level, we all want to get to the NCAAs, and if you've watched the March Madness in basketball, you can see that teams can make it deep in, and anybody can beat anybody on a given day. There's always upsets. There's always a Cinderella out there. So why not us? So that's our goal. And I feel like in our conference, the conference is young enough in terms of the teams that have lacrosse. There's only a couple schools that have had it for any kind of period of time, and they're the top two schools right now in our conference. So as a result, we strive to be them in terms of quality of personnel. I think we're getting there, that's going to be the sort of the difference between whether we're, when I talk to recruits, I mean, you can go to some conferences and there's a perennial team, that wins every year their conference, and you don't have any shot of ever getting past them to get to the NCAAs. When I talk to recruits, I say, we have just as good a shot as anybody in this conference to go to the NCAA playoffs, have an opportunity once we're there, and again, anything happens.
Right. Spring break's coming up, of course, next week. You're going to be taking your team down to the New Jersey metro area. This is the third year in a row, correct, that you've taken?
Yep.
It was New York City, D.C., and now the New Jersey area.
Correct.
Just kind of talk about those trips, talk about what that does for your team. And I know it's always a good thing to get out on the road and just kind of, you're stuck together, so you kind of grow together.
Yeah, well, you hit that right on the net. I mean, it's some team bonding. These guys hang out together anyways, but this is a real, you're sleeping in, hotels together, you're packed in a bus together. Everything you do is together. My team has not lacked unity anyway. My guys really stick together anyways, but it's just great opportunity for them. Many of them have not been to places like DC or even New York City or Philadelphia. So I've tried to pick metro areas that have something to offer in addition to what we were there to do, which is play lacrosse, but to get out and see some of the sites as well. I think the guys had a blast in DC. We need to go back there because we barely skimmed the surface by being there. Same with New York City,
right.
And now Philly. There's probably less tourist attractions, I guess, if you will, in Philly, but there are still plenty. The guys are talking about the steak and cheeses, so they want to have the steak and cheeses. So it'll be good. It'll be fun, and we're playing two really top-notch teams, so we're gonna have our hands full with that as well.
Of course, after you, Florham and Swarthmore, and then you head up back North New England way with Salem State, which is a strong athletic program,
Yep.
and then pretty quickly you're right into your conference schedule. So
yeah, and we've also added Plymouth State in there as well, which is a program that's been around for a long time, and again, another real test or challenge for us, I believe. And our conference is getting stronger. Albertus will be coming in next year. They're located in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which is a hotbed for lacrosse, so I imagine they'll be strong quick. So I think, our conference is big. It's going to be 11 next year, which is a pretty big conference when we only have 17 games.
right.
It sort of starts to limit the out-of-conference play, but it's a strong conference. Everybody's competitive in there.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
And good luck this season. We'll definitely be following you.
Thank you.